Good morning and welcome to Coffee and the Word. I chuckled there a little bit because my son tells me that when my video starts, he sees my dog and then he sees me look surprised that you're here. So I look up after he says, I'm finishing a text before I start my Coffee and the Word. But actually, I run my video through my phone just so you know what's happening. I don't know about you, but this has been an interesting week. I spent all last week talking about God and politics and how we as Christians should react. And on Monday, I told you the one thing we should not do is be afraid. We should not be a people who live in fear because we serve a God that is bigger than what's going on. And yet, yesterday, I received an encouragement from a friend of mine, a pastor in Houston at Second Christian Church in Houston. His name's Jeffrey Ernessy. And I thought it was good. I thought it was good to be reminded of. So I'm going to read to you what he sent out to his church this week. So remember, he's from Second Christian. So when you hear those references, that's why you hear them. He says, "Dear church family and friends, as I write this, the United States 2020 election decided. If my social media scroll is any indication, people are feeling anxious and discouraged. I find myself in a meditative mood. I've been thinking about how Second Christian was formed in 1894, and of all the presidents who've come and gone in that time, many of whom, if you showed people a lineup of presidential portraits, most folks wouldn't be able to match them with their names. Grover Cleveland, as it happens, was president when Second Christian held its first service. But how many of us could say, without looking, whether he was a Republican or a Democrat? Second Christian endured through the presidency of Warren G. Harding, according to historians, one of the most corrupt and scandalous in U.S. history. But again, how many of us could say today, without recourse to Wikipedia, what the corruption and scandals were? Second Christian likewise soldiered on through the mediocrity that was Herbert Hoover's presidency. But how many of us could discourse at any length as to why historians consider it mediocre? And that's the thing. The verdict of history is in on those presidents. But by the time the verdict is in, the country and the world have moved on, and hardly anyone cares. And that should tell you something. And someday, if the Lord tarries, as hard as it may be for us to believe, names like Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, and even Donald Trump will be as obscure as Grover Cleveland and Warren G. Harding are to us now. But you know what a name will still matter? Jesus. I know this is a hard season we're talking through right now, and sometimes may feel impossible to understand what God is doing in the midst of all this. I'm reminded of what God says of himself through the prophet Isaiah. My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. And that's Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. I find this passage incredibly comforting. True, God doesn't always do what I think he should do. Of course he doesn't. He's operating at a higher level. And that's important to note, that God uses specifically vertical language. He doesn't say merely my thoughts and ways are different than yours. Yes, they are different, but what matters is that the manner of the difference. They're specifically higher. God sees the landscape of human endeavor from a better vantage point than we do. He's taken way more things into account than we are. He's operating with way more information than we have. And he's caring more about and better things than we are. And that makes him infinitely more trustworthy than anyone down here. His thoughts and ways take all our circumstances into account and more. He's got a plan, and he's carrying it out. This is especially true. This is especially relevant to those of us who are watching politics on our pens and needles. Whatever happens is under God's control. You may be super jazzed or super bummed about the outcome, but you need to remind yourself of these verses, maybe several times a day. God's ways are higher than mine. He's got a plan and he's carrying it out. Whatever he's doing, he can be trusted. And so when I read that last night, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm kind of a political junkie. I've been watching the polls. I've been watching the counting. I'm not really on pins and needles. I'm very intrigued by all of it. I always have been since the early 90s when I started getting involved in politics. I love the idea that we as a nation from so many different backgrounds and creedals and ideologies and belief systems, that we all get to go cast a vote. And these people, here's one of the things that's really interesting to me, because I didn't understand it for a while. If you ever watch election night, the polls will close at 7 o'clock, and at 7:02, we are predicting that Donald Trump will carry Arkansas. And you're like, 1% of the votes are in. How in the world are you predicting this? A little bit later, we are predicting that. In fact, I was amazed at, I think it was 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock when the polls closed on the West Coast, and the polls closed at exactly 9 o'clock for us, or 8 o'clock, I can't remember. But anyway, as soon as they closed, there's ding, 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 ding. We are projecting that Joe Biden will win this state, this state, this state, this. And it's amazing to me, because you would think that a vote, all of us going and voting our conscience or voting our desires or voting our political party or whatever, you would think that we would be surprised a lot of times, and we're really not. This year, I think a lot of us are surprised. And maybe that surprising reality should just remind us that we're not running the show here. God's got this. His ways are way higher than our ways. His thoughts are way higher than our thoughts. And in fact, I dare suggest that just using the term higher is an understatement. God's ways and thoughts are infinitely higher than what we can imagine. His love is infinitely bigger than we can fathom. And so I just want us, as we go through this weekend and as everything starts to, the muddy water starts to clear a little bit, or get even muddier, whatever happens, no matter who's in charge of this country come January 20th, God's still infinitely in charge. And that's where my hope lies anyway. Always has and always must. And yours should too. So as you go into this weekend, love on your family, love on your church family, and spend some time praying and reflecting and trusting that God's got a plan and He'll work it out. Last thing I want to leave you with is it's Friday, so I want to remind you that we do have our services here on Sunday. Our services are at 9:30. We do a Bible study. We'll be in Acts chapter 5 this Sunday. We're going to be studying that. The church is born. And that's both in person and on Zoom. So if you'd like to jump into a Bible study with us, shoot us a message. We'll get you the Zoom link. And then at 11 o'clock, we do our service, both in person, and we live stream it both on Facebook and YouTube. At least we're trying. I had a streaming failure this past week, so it went up late. But we are going to be doing that. We invite you to be a part of it. I do believe, especially in these times, maybe it's what we should be doing instead of being so frantically involved and discussing politics. Maybe this is the perfect time for us to begin really honing and developing our own faith and praising the God who made us and whose ways are higher than our ways. And so if you haven't been doing the church thing in your life for a while, but you believe, church is something He really encourages you. He says we should stir one another up for love and good works. And if you've never really given the gospel a chance and you would like to hear more about it, come see us. 11 o'clock on Sunday. And for me, I'm going to have a good weekend. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about a day of rest. So I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to give you the farewell to your Friday. This has been another edition of Coffee and the Word. God bless you.